What will we be talking about in the overtime show, Alan? Will it be Trey Lance and his quarterback play, Sam Darnold and his QB play? I threw out this question, and I'd love to hear the callers weigh in. 888-957-9570. It's also the Xfinity mobile text line. What do you want to see on Sunday in terms of quarterback play? How many snaps for each of the big two?
I don't like the every other snap
Every
thing.
other play?
That would be something else.
QB
but,
in, QB out?
I think I would, or every other set of downs. I think I would like to see Trey in the first half, and maybe, it gets messed up because, Dibs, I know you said you want to see Brock in the second game, so I don't know. I'd like to see Trey, maybe Trey first quarter, Sam Darnold second quarter, Trey third quarter, Sam Darnold fourth quarter.
They usually will go one QB, you play until you come out, and then they put the other guy in and let him play until he comes out. So I don't know if you're going to see what you are desiring, which would be, one QB now and then the other QB. I think once they take a guy out, that's going to be it. So I guess the follow-up would be, do you want Trey Lance to get the first half and then Sam Darnold to get the second half, or vice versa? And does it matter who actually starts the game, in your opinion?
I think it does for optics, for one, and I also think it does because you got to think that who they're going up against would be more realistic, because that's what I'm thinking. If you want Brock to play, let's say Brock plays in the second game, that might be important too, Dibs. Is it more important for Trey to start this game, or is it more important who comes in after Brock? Because as we know, that second preseason game is when a lot of the starters will play. So maybe, okay, what's more important, starting this preseason game, which we know might be a lot of the guys that are on really the second string, third string, or is it who comes in after Brock, depending on how long Brock plays? But I'd like to see Trey start. I think from an optics standpoint, he should start. I think from what we've seen reported from camp, he should start. And I believe Sam Darnold's going to get just as many opportunities.
888-957-9570 is the phone number if you want to weigh in on this question. We're getting some good comments from the YouTube page. You can always follow us on YouTube/957 The Game. Uncle Looney says 2-2. I assume he doesn't mean 1-2-2, the old Steiny cut, but 2 quarters and 2 quarters, 2 for Trey, 2 for Sam. And Damon Chang says Trey first quarter, Sam second quarter, Brandon Allen gets the second half. Do you think we see Brandon Allen, or based on what we have gleaned from the snaps, and today Brandon Allen got no snaps in the 11-on-11, might he just be in that fourth quarter mop-up spot?
I think so, specifically because when we looked at this unofficial roster, that or, Dibs, if there wasn't an or, then Brandon Allen might be able to get a little bit more action, but it is very important, it seems, for Kyle Shanahan and the Niners to figure out who their QB2 is. So all these reps are so incredibly important. No offense to Brandon Allen. They can't be wasted just so Brandon Allen can stay warm.
And I see that point in terms of wasting the reps. And I thought that earlier in camp it was more of a 3-man race for 2 spots. It feels more and more as we've gotten deeper that Brandon Allen now is the afterthought. Mm-hmm. And, maybe they're not trying to showcase him and hoping that they can get him through waivers after they cut him and make him the quarterback for the practice squad. I don't like the chances of that happening. I do think some team would pick him up as their emergency QB3 if that's the way the Niners proceeded. But it does seem a little curious that he went from, we like Brandon Allen and he looked good in OTAs, and now he's not even getting any snaps.
Well, maybe it's just a bit of Trey starting to pick it up and Sam Darnold getting more used to the offense. I mean, here's the thing about Brandon Allen, Dibs. I don't know if a lot of fans realize, the guy was drafted in 2016. This isn't some surprise. He's 30 years old, right? Everybody kind of knows what he is, which is probably why he would get picked up and wouldn't be able to stay on the practice squad, because he's a reliable guy that if you need him in a pinch, he can keep it afloat for you. But this idea that Brandon Allen was some hidden gem, to be honest, it would be an indictment on Brock Purdy and his ability, because then it turns into, okay, so you got Brandon Allen, who's bounced around, is not really a name to write home about, Sam Darnold, who has seen ghosts, and now all of a sudden they come to the Niners and they're playing well. Now that says to me, it's okay, well, I guess it's not that hard to play well in the night, and that would be an indictment on Brock. So you should be, if you're a Niner fan, I'd be glad that Brandon Allen is getting kind of phased out here because it turns into, it's better for the Brock argument of not anybody can do this.
And it's better for the Sam and Trey argument in terms of clarifying it's just a battle for quarterback number 2 between Trey and Sam, it seems, but Brandon Allen has more experience than Trey and more than Brock, and he was Joe Burrow's backup last year in Cincinnati. So it's a quarterback who isn't just fresh off the street. You know, this is not Nate Sudfeld. This is a guy who's done more in the league than Nate Sudfeld last year. So to that extent, it's a quarterback who's got more of a track record. And I don't think that if you cut him, you're going to be able to keep him on the practice squad. So I wonder what he's done to fall out of favor, or if Kyle Shanahan is just looking at it now as we need to really drill down and give Trey and Sam the most opportunity to try to be QB2.
I think you just, at some point, you have to take some chances. And this is, if we talk about some of the gambles about maybe trading Trey and going all in on Brock, that is, moving on from Brandon Allen is a much smaller gamble than the other gambles we've talked about. I look at Brandon Allen and I think, okay, seems like he was playing pretty well in OTAs, like you mentioned. I feel like if Mitch Trubisky came to the Niners, it would be there would be similar storylines. He can throw the football. We know that. He got drafted for a reason. Kyle Shanahan's a good coach. They've got weapons. But ultimately, you know what he is. We have to make a decision here, and I like what I'm seeing from Sam, and I like what I'm seeing from Trey. Now, to your point, Dibs, with the way the quarterbacks played these last couple days here, maybe that if Brandon Allen was going to get some run, it would be now. Because I don't know if you ever been on the bench. That guy, not that I was a bad teammate or anything, but when that guy that if I'm the fourth outfielder and I'm waiting and somebody's gone 0 for the last couple of games, I start looking around thinking, okay, well, if I'm not going to get in this next game, I'm just not going to play this year. You know what I mean? So if you're Brandon Allen, you're thinking, I mean, these guys, it's Pick City over here, Pick City, shout out Tyga. What are we going to do? That's what I'm thinking if I'm Brandon Allen.
Yeah, and I think that he knows the situation, and it's Sam and Trey battling for QB2. I do want to get into your Brock Purdy championship window conversation in just a moment, because it's fascinating what you said to me during the break about how his contract affects the Niners championship window. But first, this for you and the callers, 888-957-9570. What do you need to see from Trey Lance? What does Kyle Shanahan need to see from Trey Lance in order to say, you're going to be our backup quarterback and we're not trading you?
I think it's what we've been talking about this whole time. The layups, right? Once a team or once a coach knows that you can do something, they're not going to be as impressed. If Trey goes out there and throws a bomb to Danny Gray, we're all going to ooh and ah, and it's going to be the first thing on SportsCenter. But Kyle Shanahan's probably not going to bat an eye, because I know you can do that. We already knew you could do that. The things that we've asked you to work on, can you do those things? Kyle Shanahan is going to be looking, can you make the underthrows? Can you make the quick slants? Can you put the ball where it needs to be so that the Yak brothers can get it popping and get rolling? That's what Kyle Shanahan is looking for out of Trey, and I would assume out of Sam Darnold, just be able to operate the offense. You haven't been in the offense as long as Trey or Brock Purdy. Don't give the ball to the other team. Don't see ghosts. Okay, don't say what's up to Casper, and just control the offense and keep the ship afloat. That's what I think.
Trey Lance, 1 of 2 today in his limited 5 reps against the Raiders in joint practices. It's a stat that means even less than, what you want to talk about. Brock Purdy, 15 of 26 with the 1 INT in the 11-on-11 session. Sam Darnold, by the way, a perfect 3 for 3 today in the joint QB session. So I do think that the way you laid it out with Trey Lance is exactly what Kyle Shanahan is looking at in terms of Trey Lance. Show me that you've improved your accuracy. We know he's worked on his mechanics. We know he's worked on his throwing motion and his footwork. Now go out there and prove that you can do it when the bullets are flying. And they're not the real live bullets of regular season football, but it's preseason football, and there are defensive players on the other side trying to make that team. So guys are going to be playing hard as you can in preseason game number 1. But Trey Lance I think Trey Lance has more to show, more to prove than Sam Darnold does in this preseason game, because Sam's done it in the regular season for 4 years with 2 different teams, and so he's put a lot of tape out there, good and bad, maybe more bad than good. Trey Lance still has to show what kind of quarterback he is.
And I'm going to take a step back. Besides just the actual gameplay, throughout this preseason with Trey, he's going to get a lot of reps. Can you stay healthy? Can you stay healthy? Can you stay on the field? I mean, every year he's been with the Niners, he's had, whether it be a small injury or a large one, he's been injured. So Trey, I mean, I talked about Brock Purdy earlier and his UCL and the ribs. Trey, can you stay healthy? Can you stay healthy?
Yeah.
Can we trust you? Because as QB2, you have to be available. If you're injured as QB2, you do us no good. You can't make the club in the tub.
Yeah, the number one availability or number one ability is availability, as they always say. But especially when you're a backup quarterback, if you are QB2, you've got to show that you can be reliable in order to be healthy to go out there and play. If the starter gets hurt, you got to be able to go out there and get it done. Austin's in Redwood City. Then we get into Styles' Brock Purdy takes. Austin, what's going on? You're on with Styles and Dibs.
What's up with you guys? Hey, I want to see from Trey Lance. What I want to see is Trey Lance not only go for the number 2, go for the number 1. Push that ball down the field. Show them that you got an arm. Show you can throw the short passes and do whatever you need to do to take that number 1 spot. Show them that you can do it. Man, I feel like it's still wrong that he's Brock Purdy getting the shot and Trey Lance didn't even get the shot. But 4 games and now we're talking about Trey Lance. This is the craziest thing I ever heard. But let's go Trey Lance.
Austin, just real quick, Austin, what do you think it would take for Kyle Shanahan to flip that and put Trey Lance in as a starter over Brock Purdy? What would it take in terms of Brock's bad play or Trey's good play?
Trey just got to ball out. I think for Purdy, man, he can't show no rust. He got to show he got that arm strength, and he can show he can push that ball down the field. We don't want no dunking and thinking here and there like Jimmy G like we had. We just got rid of that. Now that his arm is a problem. Like I said, we don't want no dinking and dunking. We want that ball going downfield. And that's what Trey is there for. That's why we drafted him.
Yeah, thank you, Austin. I appreciate the notion of Mayor Dinkins and Dunkin' Donuts. They're Dinkin' and Dunkin'. That's what Shanahan does. And that's where I have, at times, I have issues with, certain parts of the fan base when you're asking for this Niner offense to be something that it's not. And I've had this debate with Mark Willard, who comes back in on Monday. It's kind of a chicken or the egg. Do the Niners throw the short ball because they don't have a quarterback who can throw it deep? Or do they not throw it deep because they don't have a quarterback who can throw it deep because Shanahan prefers the shallow routes? Which one is it?
Exactly.
Is it personnel or preference?
It's a combination, and what's weird is...
It's a combination sensation is what it is.
There you go. And that's what's weird, because you had Jimmy G, who has arm strength, right? But you start to forget that simply because of the things that you laid out, Dibs, and that's why I asked the question myself, is it crazy to think that Kyle Shanahan would want a Kirk Cousins instead of Josh Allen? Still sounds insane, but when you look at the type of offense he wants to run, it is insane, but it's not as insane as it probably sounds when you initially say it, because of what Kyle Shanahan wants to run and wants to do. So you have a guy in Trey Lance. We'd love for him to push the ball down the field, but I don't think that's what Kyle Shanahan wants to see from him, because he knows that he can do that. And when Brock Purdy, whenever he does get in, to the caller's point, I think that would be a great sign. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, whenever Brock Purdy first gets in, go route. I know they don't run him often. A Kyle Shanahan version of a go route, whatever that looks like. Throw the ball.
It's called the screen. Is
right.
what the Kyle Shanahan version of a go route is.
I want to see Brock Purdy first play, whenever that is, throw the ball over 20 yards, just because, just to
see him
all the noise.
Cut it loose.
Yes, just to dead all the noise. So I know.
What if he throws it and it's a big deep in route? It doesn't have to be a go route, but something where Brock's got to hit that back foot and really fire the ball.
Yeah.
What if it's either late or high or a pick?
Then we're gonna
then
start
we panic.
Talking. Then we're gonna start talking.
We can all go crazy.
Yep. And I need it.
Yeah. You know who else needs it? friend of the show. He's a legend. Let's go to him now. Phil Mike. Phil Measy, what's going on? You're on with Styles and Dibs.
Hey, what's up, Dibs? Allen, Styles, you sound good. Dibs, you shady for acting like you don't know no rap music. You need to stop that because everybody know, you know probably the most music on the station. But people hating on Brock Purdy, why? Let the man play. We ain't seen nothing of him, so you can't hate on him, and you can't really congratulate him. My last point is this: a friend of mine, a friend of the show, by the name of Rebecca Sinicio, wanted me to tell you she worked with you and Gary. She wanted me to tell you what's up and to wash your back as well.
Okay, I appreciate the wash your back. Rebecca Sinicio, legend in this market, and give her love. And Philmo Mike, my favorite rapper, Snoopy Dogg.
I thought you was going to say Andre Nickatina.
No, I've heard of him, though. Boy, he's good at those rhymes. He's one of my favorites, too, Philmo. Hey, have a good weekend, Philmo. And, make sure you wash your back, as Philmo would like to say. That's I believe that's the name of his podcast. Not watch your back, but wash your back.
That's right.
So, a little shout out there. But Philmo Mike with the quarterback calls as well. You were mentioning Kyle Shanahan maybe wanting a Kirk Cousins. Explain to me why he won't want the Kirk Cousins, and I think it has to do with the salary that the Kirk Cousins will command when he's a free agent after this year.
Right, and we know that Kirk Cousins, really one of the most confusing quarterbacks that's ever played, just based on the fact that he's really good, but he hasn't won the big one, but he's much better than these quarterbacks, but not as good as these quarterbacks. I think that Kyle Shanahan in a perfect world, and Steiny talked about the odds for the Niners to land him. I think Kyle Shanahan would be thrilled, but Kyle Shanahan after this season might feel as if he has Kirk Cousins 2.0, which is making some Niner fans cringe right now to think that our guy is going to be Kirk Cousins 2.0. But if you trust Kyle Shanahan and trust his ability to operate the offense and having these weapons, you should feel good about it, because who knows what Kirk Cousins would do with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. I don't know that we'll ever see it. But when you look at Brock Purdy and the idea of this window, I think it's a very intriguing conversation, because you look, okay, they have him this year under $1 million, next year under $1 million, and to your point, and that's the end of 2024 season, like you were saying, Dibs, that's when they can offer him an extension. So the window for the Niners essentially to win on this small QB salary, it's only 2 years. So this idea that, okay, well, Brock Purdy, he has time and we need to develop him. The thing is, you talk about chicken or the egg, you have Brock Purdy and you are able to keep all these pieces because you're not paying Brock Purdy. You're also only seeing Brock Purdy with these weapons. So when, at the end of 2024, when that time comes, how do you value Brock Purdy, knowing that if you pay him the way he's performed as he has with these weapons, you're not going to be able to hold on to said weapons. So these next 2 years, everybody talks about the Seahawks and the Legion of Boom. They are one of the teams, and I believe what the Chiefs did too the first time they won it on Patrick Mahomes. Right. So the Chiefs did it. The Seahawks did it. You have to get that Super Bowl early, because after you get the Super Bowl early, not that you don't care as much, but you understand, hey, we're not going to be able to hold on to guys. But you only have 2 years now. If Brock does end up being the real deal, now you have to pay him as if he's a real deal. There's no more discount, and you're probably going to lose some of the weapons that have helped Brock look like the real deal.
Yeah, and the Seattle comp is the one that everyone wants to make, because Russell Wilson, when he signed his deal as a rookie 4-year deal, 2012, they go 11-5, playoff team. The next year, they win the Super Bowl 13-3. 12-4, they lose the Super Bowl. Then they go 10-6, they lose the division, and that was the end of his 4-year contract.
Yeah.
Russ gets the bag, and you start to see an erosion of talent. You lose the divisional round the next year, then you lose a wild card. You never make it back to the conference championship game. Eventually, Russ goes on. You let Russ cook, and now he's cooking in Denver, and the team was never able to get to that same lofty spot. So to your point about Brock Purdy, you've got to strike while the iron is hot. While Brock Purdy's on that rookie money, Last year, he got you to the conference championship game, and this year, you're going to sign Nick Bosa. He's going to get a massive deal, hopefully sooner rather than later, although it doesn't matter. You got 30 days until the opener. When he gets that contract, it'll be structured to where he's going to get a raise next year. This year, I think his cap number is going to be largely the same because he's already got a big cap number. But going forward, if you want to keep all these guys and re-sign Ayuk, you got Trent Williams, who might be getting close to retirement. If you want to keep him around for a couple more years, you got to make hay while the sun shines with Brock Purdy on that rookie deal.
Exactly. And I'm looking here. So basically, if they didn't give him an extension, then after 2025, they just say, hey, we're just going to pay you, it looks like $1.1 million. After 2025, 2026, after that season, he'd just be a free agent. And
right.
Anybody that's interested in Brock, come on down. He'd just be going on a world tour
right.
for potential suitors.
Yes. Shout out, was that Tribe Called Quest Award Tour?
Yeah.
I do think, though, and that's one for you, Phil, Mike, if Brock Purdy is doing anything at all, you're not letting him get to that final year. You're not letting him get to that fourth year where he's going to be still playing on that rookie contract. So you really have 2 years. And that's where the Trey Lance question becomes so interesting to me. Trey Lance is entering his third year. At the end of the third year, you've got to decide on whether or not you want to pick up his fifth-year option. As a first-round pick, you can pick up that fifth-year option. If Trey Lance is a backup, if he's QB2 or QB3, you're not going to pick up his fifth-year option, and you're going to move off of Trey Lance at that point if you're already in love with Brock Purdy. But if Brock is kind of mezza and Trey plays some and Trey looks good, well, then in the offseason, you're going to have a very interesting question between Brock and Trey.
Right, because if at that point, moving off of Trey, are we still talking trade at that point, or he's just gone?
It would be trade because he still is under contract for year 4. You wouldn't pick up the fifth-year option, or you would pick up the fifth-year option and then trade him. I'm not sure how all of the cap ramifications work with that, but if Brock balls out and you don't trade Trey this year, you get to the end of this year, and I think you're probably going to end up moving off of Trey Lance at that point.
But what if they didn't pick up the option?
Well, then Trey Lance is I think he's signed for about $10 million in year 4, and you're paying your backup $10 million. And that's where you might get into a spot where Trey Lance would, and I'm not saying he would do this, but if I'm in his spot, I would think about, holding out or, starting to play the role of disgruntled quarterback because he's been a good soldier.
Yeah.
And he's done everything that they've asked him to do. And now here he is in year 3. And I'm sure he understands that Brock Purdy has beaten him out. I mean, Brock Purdy was basically undefeated last year. So what's Trey going to go in and tell Shanahan, you need to play me over Brock Purdy? That's not the way this goes.
No, it's not the way it goes. And I'm glad you brought up Trey being a good soldier because we heard so much about it with Jimmy G. Don't hear as much about Trey. And I know we're up against it, but that's what I want to get into when we get back. Just about Trey Lance and his mindset, his mentality. Just because he isn't QB1, should he still think like